Hi, I'm Anna. I'm a single parent to a 9-year-old son who is autistic. Um, he's also developmentally delayed. I basically wanted to just, start videos to see. There's a lot of different things that I feel like I deal with that most people wouldn't understand, and I don't. I know there's all kinds of parents that are just having their children be, diagnosed. Everybody's at a different point with their children, and all of them are different. And I just really wanted to kind of go over some of the things that I kind of feel like some of the challenges or different things that we kind of experience that maybe doesn't get talked about as much. I haven't really seen anything from that many people, basically on the specific topics I'm going to bring up. Having a special needs child is my son was diagnosed when he was 3 years old. He's my only child, so I had absolutely no idea what to expect developmentally, like when he should have started certain milestones. I did have my mom telling me that he needed to be tested to find out if he was autistic, and I had a lot going on at the time with his father. I did have him tested, and that's kind of when, the diagnosis and everything, it was kind of difficult. I mean, obviously, there's to some extent, I don't know, not denial, but it's a little devastating because you don't know what to expect. You just have absolutely no idea what that means. It's a label, and there's absolutely no instruction manual, or there's not really a lot of guidance for parents of autistic children. When he was diagnosed, it was 2010. In California, there were not any very good services. Insurances would not do anything, any kind of, there were no services. So it was very, very difficult. He was in school at 3 years old. The one thing I will say that I feel like is so important, having your child in a good school district with a good teacher that actually cares about children, that actually is passionate about what they do, makes all the difference. Because if you have a teacher that's just essentially there for a paycheck, they're just essentially just going to babysit your child, and your child has absolutely nobody else to advocate for them but you. And it's difficult. It's hard going into the IEPs, every I think every 6 months, to evaluate what services they think they need. I mean, the schools are so difficult to deal with. They always want to do what's the cheapest. They want to give your child the least amount of services, and it's really difficult when your child learns, but they learn differently. And all autistic children do. They're all different. They're all at different levels. They're all at different stages. I know that can probably be really frustrating for the educators. Obviously, I know teachers don't make a lot of money, but I just feel like so many of our kids are just being lost in the system. And what I mean by that is I feel like so many of these schools, I mean, they see them as a paycheck. They get more money for our kids. Not only that, but I just feel like the school that my son is in right now, it's awful. It's terrible. And literally it's just a daycare. They're not teaching, they let him draw all day. And I think it's so depressing and so devastating that, in this day and age, you can't get, just because they learn differently doesn't mean that they're not entitled to an education. And that to me is the most frustrating thing that I think I come across, because you fight and you fight and you fight and you fight and you just get mentally exhausted. Because you're dealing with everything at home, you're dealing with the services, you're dealing with the meltdowns and all of the different challenges, and trying to teach your child and learning the best way to teach them, and like I said, it's different for every child. They all learn at different paces. So having to deal with all of that, and then going into a room with maybe 8 to 10 people at a school once or twice a year, and having them all gang up against you and basically try to take away services and tell you that your child needs less, it's really hard. On top of getting the looks in the stores, on top of having people not understand because your child doesn't look like they're any different from a typical child their age. My son is, he's almost as tall as I am. And people don't understand that he's developmentally delayed, that he's not at the age that, he's not developmentally the age that he physically is. And that's really difficult. People just don't see it. It's impossible. He just looks like a normal little 9-year-old kid. So that's hard. There's just so many. I could literally go on and on and on. I just really wanted to make a video, and I don't know. I guess I would like to talk to, or I guess meet people on here and see if there's other people that might be at a different stage. Maybe they have questions. I've fought quite a bit for what I have for my son, and you really have to learn a lot. You have to learn the laws. You have to, you can't let them step all over you and take away everything from your child, because what they learn right now and what you give them while they're young is going to determine everything for their future. It's going to determine how independent they're going to be and the ability to take care of themselves. It's not impossible for any of them to do that. To be, independent, and that's not impossible, but it's just very, it can be very difficult and very challenging, but it's so worth it. I just can't tell you guys enough that, I've had such a difficult journey. Like I said, when my son was diagnosed, there was no services demanded by the state. I had 2 different health insurance policies for my son, private insurance, through my employer and through his dad's employer. And it was good insurance. 2 completely different, companies. I was told that autism was excluded, so that they didn't treat it. And then my insurance company, it wasn't excluded with my insurance company at the time. It was Kaiser, but they literally said, "Oh yes, we cover those services, but we don't have any providers. So you're not able to get any services." So it's a lot of, there are a lot of doors that get slammed in your face. There's not as many resources as I really feel like there should be. And I guess it's gonna take parents like myself or other people to, I guess, fight and make those nonprofits and get the information out there, because I know if there was more information out there for me when I had just gotten the diagnosis, I feel like it would have taken so many years off of, I feel like I would be at least 4 or 5 years ahead of where I'm at right now. And, the reality is, it is what it is. And I've fully come to terms with everything. It's, I'm grateful to have my son. I love him. He's so sweet, and he makes me so happy. I'm so proud of him. So, I know that there are people out there that have it much, much worse. Having a learning and developmental disability, and he's not as verbal as a typical child. He's just recently really gotten a lot more speech, which I'm grateful for. I'm so grateful for it. I'm a very, very appreciative of exactly who he is and how lucky I am to have him. And I guess I just kind of trying to reach out there. I guess this is just a little bit of time for me to kind of vent and talk about things that I don't see anybody else talking about, because there's a lot that we deal with. Like, I'll give another example: dating. I do not want to date. I have a future ahead of me. My son, developmentally, he's probably not going to be able to take care of himself at the age of 18. He's not going to be developmentally at that age where he's going to be able to completely care for himself and live independently. So there's a lot of not sacrifice, but there's just a lot of different challenges that we face, and it's not anything that's, I don't see it as a negative. I just see it's just so different. I think it's so different from just, and I think so many people take for granted, I guess if they have typical children, it's difficult to have somebody that you communicate with. You speak to them and you hug them and kiss them and love them, but somebody that can't reciprocate, or they can physically, show you that they love you, but not being able to hear that from a child, that's difficult. And I think a lot of people take that for granted. People that have typical children, they don't ever bother to stop and think about those types of things. And that's why I feel like I'm so grateful that he doesn't have any worse issues. He could have no limbs, he could have seizures, he could have a lot of different problems that he doesn't have. And I'm just so grateful. And I would love to, if you have a child, you can relate, you have questions, I would love for you guys to reach out to me, because it's very isolating. I feel like it's difficult sometimes. You don't want to go out in public, but you have to, because you have to take them to do stuff and socialize and have fun and be a kid. But I would really like to, I guess, just communicate with other parents that basically get it and understand. And maybe if you don't have an autistic child, or you don't have, maybe somebody. It's just, I feel like I'm just trying to give you guys a different insight on it, because there's a lot behind the scenes that you guys don't see. You might see the tantrums, you might see different things, but how frustrated would you be if you could think the way that you do and you couldn't express anything? Like, you couldn't talk. You knew what you were thinking. You're pissed off, or you want something, and you're getting agitated, and and just not being able to get it out. That's frustrating. I can only imagine. I don't have that, but my son, it's got to be really difficult to be on the other side of it. I just feel like I feel like his life is probably more difficult than mine. I do face a lot of challenges, but I feel like he probably deals with a lot worse than I do. I've seen the way certain people treat him when I'm around, and I get so fearful of the way he's treated when I'm not there. So, I'm just trying to give a different insight and just basically share some information so that maybe you can see it from the other side, and maybe realize that, we're not all just bad parents, and it's not that we don't discipline them. Everything that they see is completely different. They have sensory issues. They have sensitivities to light or sound. There's a lot of different factors. It's not just learning. So, there's a lot of different things people don't understand about autism, but they're bright little kids. They're sweet little kids. And they just want to be loved, and they want to be able to express themselves. So I just feel like we definitely would like other people to reach out if you guys have questions or anything like that. I would love to watch your guys' videos and chat. So feel free, if you like the video, feel free to subscribe or give it a thumbs up. Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks. Have a good night.